Hello, Rachel.
How are you?
I'm very excited. How about yourself?
I'm excited, but nervous. I'm not feeling fully yum yet.
How could that be? We're the Yum podcast. We're Ryan and Rachel. We love to come in here fully yummed up the wazoo. I mean, we all know what it is, but Rachel, for good old time's sake, could you explain to all of the listeners out there what Yum is? Because they all know that we are a podcast that reviews episodes of science fiction television, but maybe not everyone knows where the Yum.
Description. The origin of Yum isn't in the description, but
No.
Ryan makes it a part of every fucking episode we do. I love it.
You love it.
I love it. So, Yum was a line of dialogue uttered by an individual as part of the production of Star Trek Discovery. It made no sense, and it confused, delighted, aroused my husband Ryan so much.
And you?
That he wanted to name the podcast after it.
And you agreed. And if there's any TV show in existence other than Star Trek Discovery worthy of saying yum as a little comedic piece of banter, it is the Sci-Fi show that we are embarking on here. We are starting our journey with Killjoys. That's right. Killjoys, we're starting it.
Starting. And that isn't entirely accurate. We're starting our podcast journey with the show. I am starting my relationship with the show, period, because I have not watched any of it. And you have watched all of it.
Killjoys is 10 years old, and it felt appropriate to celebrate that, because we managed to finish up all of the other shows and stuff we were covering, and we're leading into the 10-year anniversary of Killjoys, a series that, yes, I saw when it was airing at the time. I entered in around the start of season 3, and I caught up to it, and then I watched it week to week until it finished with its 5-season run. And it was a show that I watched on my own. It was something that I remember vividly. We had just moved into where we are living now. It was a little while into the process of still unpacking things and getting used to the environment and getting used to our lives, where we had moved from to where we are now. And I was watching this while doing art projects, a lot of paintings and photography work and all of that. I would have this on as something to watch while I was doing that stuff. And I just got more and more engaged with it. But it was something I watched on my own. Rachel, did you have any expectations? Did you have any ideas, any inklings?
Campiness, sci-fi, futuristic, and dated.
In what way?
Well, I had a feeling that it was going to feel pretty 2010s.
Oh, and I love how that feels dated already as we are halfway through the 2020s. But did you have any idea of what
maybe I should have said of its time.
Of its time. Did you have any memories or inklings of what the actual settings or plot or the general thrust of Killjoys was?
Not a lot. Like, those ideas, and I think I knew that it was about bounty hunters at one point, but I didn't quite recollect that when we started watching it. And then I was like, oh, I knew that.
Well, how about you tell us what the first episode was all about and what it's called?
Oh, I'm out of my comfort zone, Ryan. Because you're not letting me just read the IMDb descriptions for these ones.
We're having a little bit of a fun shake it up with Killjoys where we are going to give our own descriptions of the episodes. So, what have we got from you, Rachel, for the premiere, for the opener of Killjoys? What is this episode called again? Do you remember?
Bangarang?
Skrillex song of the time. So yum yum. Just absorb that into your skin. Now, there's more meanings for it for this episode, but just that is a part of the pie.
Oh, God, I hate that.
It was 2015.
I fucking hate that.
I only discovered recently that Skrillex was more than was just a person. I thought it was a group.
In a world where the company owns everything, we need to trust the Killjoys to fulfill their contracts. Meet Dutch and John, who are a great team, but what happens when they become a trio?
I just want to say that this episode was directed by Chris Grismer, who has quite the catalogue when it comes to directing episodes of television, and we will see his name pop up a couple more times with Killjoys. And this episode was written by Michelle Lovretta, who is also the creator of Killjoys. Many people may know her from her previous series, Lost Girl, which I haven't seen before. I am aware of it, but I have never actually sat down and given it a look myself. On Yum Yum Podcast, we like to shine a light on the thing that was particularly yum yum about a given show, and that's ever changing because that yum yum moment is so encompassing of life.
Multitudes.
And what is the multitude that we are going to look at with Killjoys as we go?
What made us laugh is what we're going to choose for the yum yum moment of each episode of Killjoys. And I was paying too much attention to the episode and kind of forgot that was what I was meant to be keeping an eye out for. And I forgot to write anything down.
Well, the episode engaged you. That's something. People can even see that you were engaged because we have been going through and recording our reactions for things lately, and Killjoys is one of the shows what we're doing that with, and people can find that on our YouTube and on Patreon and all of that stuff. But you did not find a yum yum laugh in Killjoys? Nothing is lingering with you? This is a funny show. That's the thing that Killjoys puts forth very quickly, is that it is going for a much more light, humorous approach to what is a very familiar sci-fi world, the dystopian, the evil sci-fi capitalism, the poverty, war is brewing. But it evens that out with the laughs.
So used to picking bad things that those are the things that I'm remembering. Like the ones where I'm like, oh, that's a choice, like raising somebody up on hooks.
Oh, that was a great choice.
A character that's called God.
Another great choice.
What do you have?
I have so many moments. I particularly enjoyed when lead Dutch says that she's going to go down there and kick Johnny's ass. And then the computer Lucy says ass kicking imminent, or whatever it is. Ass kicking initiated. And it's great. But my favorite moment of the episode, it made me laugh a lot. I had a big grin on my face. I rocked back in my chair. The character of Fancy Lee exists, and he's great. But there's a moment at the big event near the end of the episode where they're infiltrating this garden party, and he shoots a poison dart or a poison knife.
Oh, the wave.
And they look up, and it's Fancy Lee, and he gives them a little salute wave, like, it's me! And he just walks away. And I love that shit. See, that's the type of cheese I live for in a format like this. I'm not a huge lover of bounty hunty type sci-fi shows. Like, I love Cowboy Bebop, of course. Firefly, I've always been mixed on.
The one with the hamster.
What?
We've talked about the animated show where
Oh, Bounty Hamster.
Yeah.
Right. Sorry, you really got me good there. What a great show that is. I feel like I should play the Bounty Hamster noise again. I have done on the podcast previously.
The biggest takeaway that I had was how lived in this world feels. It gives I'm based on a book vibes because it is so, like, there's so many details woven into the events that we are shown, and implications of the broader world with the way that things are presented and the reactions that characters have to things.
Yeah, you're right. There's a real lived-in sense. This isn't based upon any previously existing material. This did air at the same time as The Expanse. Both were on the Sci-Fi channel. And yet both of them have very, very drastically different approaches to things that are also very similar. Like, you look at this episode and you have your location. Like, you have Old Town, and it's like, oh, remember Ceres in The Expanse? And yet they're very different styles. The look of the show has a very, like, specific color grading, harsh lighting.
Different planets have different visual styles.
Yeah, to indicate, like, hey, because we're set in the quad, so there's 4 planets that we're dealing with, that they're bouncing around. And we went to, I think, 2 of them in this one episode, and you got a different color palette for them. But also when we go to different ships, we get different colors. Like, that's all cool and neat. But, general thoughts, I thought this was a pretty good first episode. I think this is perhaps the best first episode of any of the shows we've covered, because there's no
wholeheartedly
facts.
Agree. Like, it is very lean, and it doesn't feel burdened with all of the setup.
It's more excited to just let the characters snap into the dynamic. Like, once you
it shows us.
Yeah, once you get all 3 of them, Davin, Johnny, and Dutch, together, you already feel like, oh, this is what the show wants to do. They want to have the 2 brothers doing their bickering brother thing, the mysterious badass lady who's the no-nonsense one in charge, but she's willing to bend the rules when needed. Like, that's what they're interested in, and yet there's also all of the typical world-building things of, like, here's this faction, here's this status quo of the world that we know will shift over the course of the series. Like, they're doing all of that.
Mm-hmm. Yep, you have different belief systems that come up, and political ideologies that are present. You get an idea of what some of the rules are and what's considered important by the way that they talk about certain things.
What did you feel about the tone?
I feel like it knows what it is, and I need to warm up to it. And I think that I will, but it's going to take a little bit of time to adjust to what it is and how it is, because we're going from Discovery into this, so the shift into, like, campy fun, but in a good way. I'm feeling very dubious about it, because Discovery, burned me pretty hard.
But also, to contrast this or even compare it to a Star Trek show is always going to be difficult, because Star Trek is the high end. Like, it's got the big budget, it's got these huge action set pieces, the special effects. What Killjoys has in its favor, and this is actually something many people could hold against it, is it's scrappy. It's obviously got a lower budget. It's working with what it's got. whether that be the choices of sets that they have and how they use lighting, filters, angles to make them feel all different and unique, how they have just action set pieces set in a hallway. It's like, in a weird way, it's kind of charming because it cuts through the bullshit and just gets to the point. This is a lean, mean fighting machine of a pilot. Like, the opening credits of the show is like 15 seconds long, and the end credits are even shorter because they are like, we want to do the episode. We don't want to just waste time. Like, that's something that I was actually really thankful for in this episode, was just, oh, they're not faffing about. They just want to do the stuff. And the stuff on the screen, obviously, for a first episode of a Sci-Fi Channel show, it's rough around the edges, sure. But I think that scrappiness and trying to, almost like that kids making a theater play with like a limited amount of costumes and yet they're making it work approach to this, actually thematically suits nicely with like this ragtag group of people just trying to make it on by.
Now that you frame it that way, I can kind of piece together something that was like niggling at the back of my brain, which is how this sort of reminds me of Sanctuary, another sci-fi original.
Oh, was that a Sci-Fi Channel show?
I'm pretty sure it was.
I never watched Sanctuary. The only thing I know about it was it didn't have real sets. It was all green screen. That always turned me off. I was like, oh, that sounds disgusting to me. And as time has marched on, I would wonder if it's even more disgusting.
It would be really
this has sets.
Really hard.
But you were saying it makes you think of Sanctuary.
Yeah, but that sense of, like, it felt like it was a whole thing and it was developed and there were different paths that they were going to go down and different aspects that they could choose to explore, but it felt like a world that they'd opened up and we were getting to see glimpses into.
What did you feel about this being a show from 2015? Because what does that era look like to you now that we're a decade beyond it? Because there was that thing of like, even when I watched this show initially, I was like, oh, I wonder how this is going to go down as a funky juice when we watch it 20 years from now. Because like when we watch something like Babylon 5 or some of these other shows, it's like, oh, it's so easy to look at a show from like 30 years ago and go like, oh yeah, look at them wearing their like 90s clothes and reading newspapers.
Yeah.
But this is still relatively fresh.
But it still has markers of its time. The song choices, the fashion choices, some of the jokes. No Your Mama jokes in this episode.
Here's what I wonder. Well, you just said a moment ago we finished Star Trek Discovery. And that wrapped up like last year. How's that any different? Like, a lot of the things were the same in that show all the way through. And I wonder, with a lot of science fiction shows, what has changed? I think for me, what has changed is some of the shows now, and I say this not as a negative, but there's a lot more of a self-importance. Like,
the sensibilities have changed.
This is arguably some of the sci-fi shows now are a lot drier and border on pretentious for me. And yet also a lot of them are just cheap garbage that gets cancelled after like 8 episodes, because why would you want to watch that? What stood out to me is it's that color grading. It's that washed out yellows and greens and blues, browns.
A lot of brown.
And I don't know if it's always just a stylistic choice or just a budgetary constraint to hide things, but we saw that with the first season of The Expanse, which obviously had more money, but the Sci-Fi Channel era run of The Expanse was a lot of washed out grays and blues and yellows, and that to me is what reeks of like this being a 2010s show, because that look pervaded a lot of TV then, and honestly still does now.
Dutch, You work together, live together, do everything but sleep together. And you're worried that he wants a little time apart. Bitch, how charming do you think you are?
I thought that we should start by talking about our trio of characters that are set up. And I wanted to go John, Davin, Dutch. Because I feel like starting with John makes the most sense because he's the protagonist man. And he's the reason that we get the inciting incident of the episode and likely of the season.
Yeah, it's fascinating to hear you say, like, he's the protagonist, man, because I genuinely...
He's not the protagonist. Dutch is clearly the protagonist, but he's the protagonist man.
Well, what I was going to say was, who was the protagonist of this episode? And I do feel like he was. I think
like he was
Dutch
the one
clearly,
pushing the... Okay.
He has investments. He has a journey.
He's the one propelling the plot.
But she's clearly the protagonist of the show.
Yeah. Like, she's giving main character energy.
But
whereas he's functioning as the protagonist.
She's very background in this pilot. But to talk to Johnny, what did you feel about John overall?
I am very intrigued by him, not because of what he is and how he is exactly, but the way that that's interacting with other people around him and the way that other people perceive him. Like, one of the parts that made me most intrigued was when their handler is just like, I told you he was too soft for this kind of work, or this line of work. And it's just like, we've seen him be competent
and confident
in their mission, even when things kind of like went wobbly.
He was the one that put himself in the position to be tortured.
Yes. And he was all cocky and sly, and they succeeded in their job. So her saying that makes you go, well, what's happened in the past? What is he like? Is this the exception? And then you see the way that he is compared to his brother. And then it's like, well, is he the kind of person that Dutch wants to work with because she doesn't want to do kill jobs? So she doesn't want to be partners with a killer because they'll want to do kill jobs. They probably pay more. She's at a level where she has access to those contracts.
I think a part of it too is, and maybe this is just me, having a bit of a history with the actor Aaron Ashmore. I've seen him in a bunch of things throughout my life. I remember him in Smallville. A part of it to me is like a show don't tell, which is just look at him. He has such a soft, friendly, likable face and demeanor. This is a guy where when we see all of the Killjoy people in this episode, including the handler,
like a killer.
He doesn't look like he doesn't look a part of that group. He doesn't look like he could just kill people. He doesn't have that grizzled factor. Even Dutch, she does. She has that look to her. She has this kind of, this stare that she gives, even though there's like a cockiness to it all and a flirty fun aspect to it. She's a badass in that way that you can, at least I could buy from this first episode. But like Aaron Ashmore just looks like a nice 90s boy.
Yeah.
You just want to bundle him up and see him in a sitcom where they're at a cafe with their feet on the table. Like, so the idea of him being a guy that shoots people in the head is less likely to buy. So I kind of look at it as that that
him
type
being
of thing.
Idiot who goes, oh, I need to do this thing, jump in, I'll figure out a plan later. I believe that 100%.
at the beginning, he's very impulsive. He just is like, that's my brother. I got to go get him and save him. But it's not as simple as that. He learns it's not as simple as that. And instead of just being left at the, I must discover what is the root cause of my brother's disappearance or anger at me or disappear, like all of that, he gets pissed off. He's like genuinely upset with Davin in a lot of this episode. But then you see them fall back into their big brother, little brother dynamic, and then you get the prickliness of Johnny, who's like a funny guy, will just snap in these nice little quick-fire ways that, again, Aaron Ashmore just had. I think he is probably the best actor in this pilot, too. Like, he feels like the most natural with the lines. He just reminds you that Johnny is not okay with his brother's absence in his life. Like, Johnny on the surface seems like...
So much resentment.
Yeah.
So much resentment.
Because Johnny, at least to me, on the surface seems like, oh, he's the funny guy. He's the quipster. He's the one that's going to have all of the zingers. But this episode actually gave him a lot of gravitas.
He's no Rigel.
Yeah, he's not like the horny, lecherous, or the fast talking blabbermouth the entire time. Like, he's got a little bit more grit and dimensionality to him. Like, how did you at least react to that? Because I know when we were watching it and we were reacting to it, the beginning of it, you were just kind of like, this guy, when he was doing all of the jokes while being tortured. But the episode, at least to me, kind of gave him more...
But then there was a point to that. Like, more than him just being, I'm protagonist, man, and you hit me and I laugh because it's hilarious. And it is performative. The character is being performative. It's not the actor putting on that level of performance, which is an interesting way to introduce a character, because the first time that we see them doing these things that are dodgy, and we don't know why, and we don't know what their morality is like. But they are duplicitous. And that is confirmed. And setting your central characters up to be liars,
while still parading around like they have codes of honor. Because Johnny and Dutch, although work in this field that involves deception and murder, it's self-defense when we do it, they have this strong bond, one that he has stronger with her than he does with his own brother. But at the end of this episode, pretty much everyone is keeping some form of secret
that they've always been keeping.
Yes.
But it's now on the surface.
But still, the other characters don't know about each other's secrets, but we do, and they are individually keenly aware of it. Johnny doesn't so much have like a secret in this episode. It's more just like, he shows how willing he is to fuck over their dynamic when something personal comes his way. In this case, the plot, we haven't truly got to say, is, these two bounty hunters have to get a bounty, or a bounty is offered to kill someone, and it is Johnny's brother, and he takes it upon himself to take that job on his own, breaking the rules, because he can't accept those, to go save his brother.
And save him. And it's really unclear why he doesn't want to ask Dutch for help in the first place.
Again, I think that's like the secretive part of his, like, this is private to me, because they have a conversation in which is, in the 6 years I've known him, he's never asked for me time. And this is the time he does. And she immediately is like, I got to get on that shit. I got to know what's happening there. But I'll leave. And then she gets dragged into it. But what did you actually think of the brother himself, Davin? You know it's a sci-fi thing because he has an apostrophe and a V in his name.
It's a trope at this point, right? I was kind of on him most of the time. Like, I'm not in your life because it's better off that way. I'm bad for you. Just let me go kind of characters I very rarely like, especially when they start off that way, because it's just like, well, why are you bad news?
Well, that's the mystery.
Yeah. But it's just like, well, you just seem like a twat.
Which is what Johnny lands on by the end of the episode.
Yeah. So I'm just on Johnny's side. Like, Davin's a twat. And I guess I'll bring this up now, because this is a reason that I didn't like Davin as much. Is because of how much he objectifies Dutch.
What? He looks at her ass like one time, and then the rest of the episode he's just untrusting of her. He's like, no. Do you even know who this bitch is?
Once he sees her in that dress, he looks at her like she's something to eat.
Okay. I can see that read. I thought it was more he was astonished at her fighting skills because he's the soldier. He's the trained killer.
Yeah.
He's the fighting machine. And then he sees her like kung fu, like kick everyone's ass.
That's the way that I read into it. Like, but I feel like that is leading into a sexual desire. Like, damn, she's so hot when she fights. That's the way that I was reading into it.
And I think the show is doing that itself with
it
the
makes me scared that a bunch of this show is going to be a love triangle, either overtly or implied, because Johnny seems to get annoyed when he is overtly objectifying Dutch.
Well, Johnny doesn't like people objectifying Dutch altogether, like in the beginning of the episode when Corin, the evil villain, threatened to sexually assault her, and then he's like, hey, you think I'm the boss? She's actually the boss, you fucking dummy. She's a strong lady. Do you understand that?
Yeah, but it makes me worried that it's gonna be are they romantic? Are they not gonna be romantic? Would it betray John if they got involved?
Yeah, do you think if it is doing that, it would come at it from the angle that, like, Johnny is actually romantically interested in Dutch but doesn't say it? Or do you think it's more like he's just protective of his platonic friend and it's like also the classic
third option.
Or the classic option of like, you don't want your sibling dating your friend?
I was thinking more of along the lines of he doesn't realize that he's in love with Dutch until there's somebody else on the scene.
Unless the target is my partner's ass.
Do me a favor, keep surveilling.
No, I remember you being a lot more fun.
I remember you being taller and smelling better.
I thought Davin was fine in the episode. I actually kind of liked him when he was playing up the I'm your big brother and I know better than you card, more so than the I'm a traumatized soldier card. Or
I liked that phase more as well. Like,
big gun for big brother, little gun for little brother.
Yeah, when he has his PTSD nightmare.
Oh, and in all fairness, Dutch was watching him while he slept, and then then they tussled, and it's like, that was a weird moment to communicate across. Like, this guy has a fucked up backstory that we, the audience, are getting being privy to, but the other characters aren't yet. So that was like a thing. Also, you talk about objectifying Dutch. What about?
But Davin is the one that spends so much of this episode shirtless.
Yeah, please be reminded that this was created by a woman as well. And the show is like, what happens if one of my main characters is the hunkiest guy ever, and he's rarely, if ever, wearing a shirt? And if he is wearing a shirt, it's a scene of him putting it on slowly. I noticed that.
Yeah.
Would you say he's a hot piece of tasty?
I would.
Yeah? I think that, look, with Davin, the most interesting thing to me truly is he offers up the potential harsh reality of you cannot always bluff your way out of a situation. You cannot always use your wit and your cleverness to get out of a situation, because at the end, he shoots the Scarback monk that they're there to get, while Johnny was trying to talk him down. And there is the ambiguity there of who was right.
And it's just like, was that doubt worth risking their lives for?
But it's a slippery slope that Davin is bringing violence to this dynamic, because we see that it gets them positive results. It cleans up the mess that they found themselves in.
And we know that that's how most of this world works. Like, this world thrives on violence. We have a whole sequence that's all, like, indentured fighters.
And the violence just keeps you going and going and going. There's a war that's yet to break out because the evil company is oppressing people, and the people will rise up eventually. And violence is probably going to be the only answer to this problem. But there's a lot of dialogue in the episode about how we can't just keep up the cycle of violence. We have to break from it. We have to get away from it. I mean, Davin is a guy who's willing to shoot someone in the head, but he also has, as you like to make fun of, his war nightmare dreams where he has the blood on his hands and screaming at the fear of all of the carnage.
Like, it is done fairly well. It's just...
He calls it battle brain, which is the bad part.
Yeah, it's just very basic. And after having been spoiled with Space Above and Beyond, doing even that kind of stuff in a way more meaningful and impactful way, it feels cheap.
But it's the first episode. Like, if you compared this against the first episode of Space Above and Beyond, you'll probably give this more favor.
Oh, yeah. We've already been over that. But the way that, like, it just, it feels like a shortcut. And the show doesn't take many of them. So it really sticks out as feeling cheap to me.
Okay. I think it's also interesting because then you can look at how they handle Dutch, and that she also has these mysterious things in the background of her life and her relationship to violence and killing, and that feels much more natural.
She's the character that I'm the most interested in. Like, the stuff that they set up with her, it's also done in a very basic way, but because we don't understand the implications of things because they're grounded in this sci-fi world, like, we look at that and go, okay, that's PTSD, that's war trauma, there's going to be stuff around that, it's probably going to be A, B, and C.
Yeah, and even with Johnny, it's like, oh, family drama.
Yeah,
right.
But where did Dutch come from? And I was very intrigued by the specific wording. I think Davin poses the question to Johnny. Somebody invested a lot of money
and
time in making her a good fighter. They're not gonna just, like, give that up.
And how do you not wonder where that came from? Like, with me, you know it's because I'm a soldier, and you know what that means. But where the fuck did she learn her stuff, and why doesn't that interest you?
Mm-hmm. Because you don't know where she's been or who is coming for her.
Her enemies will be your enemies. But, okay, with Dutch, before we go down the rabbit hole of all of those tantalizing mysteries, because we have a bit of a diversion to mystery boxes and mystery storytelling, because a lot of these shows, whether they be science fiction or just
This
dramas,
feels different though, because it feels like there is an answer that they know.
and also
The show knows, Dutch knows her backstory.
Mm-hmm.
And we're heading towards something, and the journey to that point is unclear and maybe flexible, but they're heading somewhere. It's not just, ooh, mystery. Aren't you intrigued? I wonder what it's going to be.
That's a story for another
and
time.
That's
I had Luke
this is an
Skywalker's
episode
lightsaber.
that gives
that's
you
story
a
another
little
time.
part of the mystery, and it only matters because it's a mystery. It is like, no, it matters that what Dutch has experienced has led her to be this kind of person and have these kinds of skills and approaches to things that we are seeing, and it impacting her relationship. And
why does she have this code that she has as a Killjoy that's unusual for every other Killjoy other than Johnny? And we get an answer to that, but you know that there's going to be more pieces to it. I describe it as this. Killjoys, within this singular episode, promises you a meal. And you go, I can't wait to eat that meal. And then it actually gives you the meal, but you know that there's going to be a second dish. The episode actually told its own individual story from beginning, middle to end. It was like, here's the bounty. Here's the personal stakes to that bounty. Here's like a mystery angle to it. Here's how we solve it. Here's our connections. Here's the action set piece. Here's how we take down said villain. And here's the repercussions of that. But at the end of this, you could still say like this was its own episode while still promising more. Like this has a good balance of like, this is a first episode, this is also an individual episode, and this is just a part of an ongoing story, which is actually really tricky to do. And it seems like a lot of shows nowadays have had a hard time riding that balance.
No, because they get way too into being seasons and forget that they need to have episodes nested under that that are somewhat contained.
But what did you actually think of Dutch herself? She's clearly set to be the protagonist of the show. She's the lead person of this ragtag crew. But what did you actually think of Dutch?
I really liked Dutch. And I was a little bit worried at first that she was just going to fall into the not like other girls style of things, this being a 2010s production.
A Sci-Fi Channel show.
Mm-hmm. And a lot of sci-fi women do get written into that camp. So I was really just delighted by her throughout this episode, and I was a little bit wary when it was like, oh, she has childhood trauma. Oh.
Killing people.
Oh, what are you going to do with this? How are you going to handle this?
But then you cut to her in the present day and she can still crack jokes and yet also still be dramatic.
Yeah, because I was worried that that was going to simplify her down. But instead, it is a part of her. And I feel like they did that more successfully with her than they did with Davin's soldier history. I'm having trouble thinking of anything else to say because she's just competent and she's continually competent. So when she is shaken by seeing that man from her past, it does shake me as an audience member being like, oh, what?
Because she's been so cool about everything else. Like literally being poisoned, she's handling that much better than seeing this nice silver-haired man.
Yep.
Whose hair is perfectly coiffed. I just kept noticing that. I'm like, this guy, He's supposed to be scary. Like, he killed a guy. He killed the My Tits guy.
Yeah,
my favorite character of the show. The guy at the slave ship who just like, and have my tits handed to me by my boss? I don't think so. He kills that guy, but it's like, I don't think this guy's that scary because he has the most coiffed, perfectly gelled hair I've ever seen on a person. He looks like a 1930s movie star.
He weirdly reminds me in a way of is it the what the fuck is his name in Mass Effect?
The Shepherd.
No. The Mr. What's it?
The Elusive Man.
Ah.
You know who he reminds me of? A Canadian older version of Howard Hamlin from Better Call Saul.
Yes!
A tall, thinner Canadian version of Howard Hamlin from Better Call Saul.
Abso-fucking-lutely!
And Howard was a sweetheart, so I don't know if I can not think of this guy as a sweetheart. Look, in the flashback, he was kind of creepy with his big smile handing a knife to a little girl to go kill a guy strapped to a chair.
Yeah.
He called.
Yeah.
Oh, and we know from this episode that Dutch is not her real name because he calls her Yala.
Yeah. And it also, even before then, it felt like a nickname to me just because of the way that people treated saying Dutch. But,
if I'm not mistaken, I think Yala means like hurry up or come along in Arabic. So that's a neat little detail. Because also, if you look at what she's dressed in that scene, they're very much going for that kind of aesthetic. So that's kind of an interesting thing to note.
Mm-hmm.
Hello, little bird.
It's not really you.
Oh, no?
I'm hallucinating.
And you chose me? Well, that's flattering.
And you laughed, Rachel. You laughed when the beginning of it, they said their money in this universe is called joys.
Yeah. I did.
Because that made you realize the title was...
And they kill for money.
They're Killjoys. But then the episode gave you the middle finger because all of the characters who get called Killjoys think it's stupid that they're being told that they are people who kill for money. We're reclamation agents, damn it. We have real names. We're not... Killjoys is like a mean thing to call us.
She uses it when it's convenient. And it's like... Do you actually object or not? I'm not sure right now.
I think it's objectionable when people are saying it to them, but they can call themselves Killjoys. It's that kind of irony there. But that's something that, really stood out to me as well is how the episode just casually, I think this was much more casual exposition, how they just demonstrated like how the Killjoys, the reclamation agents function within the world and like the rules, the hierarchy, that they are a separate body to the evil sci-fi company that rules the quad, but they are also not nice. Like,
is this another sci-fi show where it's just capitalism bad?
I mean, it's science fiction. It's always capitalism bad, Rachel. One of these days, we'll show one that's capitalism good, but I don't think it will be today.
No.
Were there any little details of the Killjoys organization that leapt out at you or you found intriguing?
I liked how clearly the rank system came through without them drilling it into you. What else did I enjoyed the office worker being like, I thought about becoming one, and then I realized that the real work is done by the people in the office.
But I salute you nonetheless. Killjoys.
Yeah.
I like the guy that they were taking in, the guy from the cold open, and how he's just like, hey, when I come a calling with real work, you'll pick up, right? Like, he just looks at Killjoys as just other scum of the universe that he could put in his pocket. Like,
they're just mercenaries, but they're just hired by
and they're not
rack instead of other organization.
They don't feel like the cops either. Like they do just feel like a bounty hunter group that just has a lot more regimented nature to them. Like they have a hierarchy, they have rules, they have like all of these like bureaucratic things, but they still feel like they don't feel like cops still.
The way that her higher up explains it, of like, we work like this, we have this code, you contracts above all.
The yum above all, Rachel, is the motto of our coverage of Killjoys. I know there was a contentious point between you and I when we were recording our reaction. God. They talk about this religious order called the Scarbacks, and the leader of this particular branch of it, his nickname is God. And he's not only a monk, but he's also the leader of the rebellion, the resistance, fighting against the evil Sci-Fi company. But he doesn't just want a war, he wants a rebellion, he wants a resistance, he wants to change the status quo.
Revolution.
He wants a revolution. War is what they call it when the big dogs come in. I want a revolution. What I don't like about this episode overall and like the pitch of the show is the company. It's just they're literally called the company, and they are just broad strokes evil Sci-Fi company. Like as good as the world building and the details are in this episode, that is the most like generic thing to me, is just there's a company who oppresses people, and one day there will be a resistance against them, a revolution against them. Like, it's interesting that the religious order is a part of it that's going to like fight against them, but that's it.
The other faction that gets labeled is the miners. What are they mining? Don't know. Doesn't really matter to this plot, so we don't know. Like, it doesn't matter what the company started out as. It's just they're the definitive. They own everything in this little system, at least. But you do get the sense that there is a world beyond the quad.
Yeah, they've not mentioned Earth at all.
No.
That's something to say too. We're not in Earth. We're not in the same solar system. We're in the J cluster, I think is what they said. And the quad is its own planet, like its own system of planets. You did not like God that much?
No, and I don't think I was really meant to. You had more fun with him than I did. I was just dubious of him, and he clearly feels like he's being set up to do more in the future, but was left fairly flat in terms of characterization for this episode.
I think he's promising.
Like, he's all ideology and no personality.
I can see that.
That's a bit of an exaggeration, but you get my point.
No, I think you're 100% on the money. He's there to represent the thematic points of the series going forward. Like, he is the guy that's saying, like, here is the bigger picture. Yeah, he's the bigger picture of the world, while you're focusing on the little one. I hope one day you'll choose your right side when it comes to the battle. And she's just like, excuse me, I'm a reclamation agent. I don't have citizenship. And he's like, that's not what I'm like. That's not what I'm talking about. But you'll figure it out one day.
Yeah, you are not acknowledging the actual question.
The best I can give him in this episode, other than I think he's I like the idea of the monk who's actually the leader of a resistance group, and also I think that actor just has a certain look to him that's just like, okay, you're strange. Like, you've just got a strange vibe.
Little uncanny.
Yeah, he's hot and weird. So it's one of those. But I like what he does offer up for Dutch, which is we're getting further cemented that she, although has this loyalty to her code and her honor and to the rack, where does she fall when it comes to plays of morality and ethics on bigger scales than what is only important to herself? Like, he's saying, like, one day there's going to be a war that's going to tear all of this apart. What will you do when that happens? And she's very much like, hey, I'll be fine because I'm exempt from all of that. But
I'm
she's so
outside of that.
But in the episode, she's so strong and adamant about like what her line is that she's willing to cross or not cross, and that's kind of like the best he offers up in terms of like character stuff. But mainly, it is just like he is us teasing out things for the future.
Yeah, and pushing back on who Dutch is and what Dutch is willing to stand up for and what she's willing to accept. I guess I want to try and unpack why this episode doesn't feel burdened by its obligations as a first episode. Is it just that they show enough while also telling? Is it just that balance is better, or is there something else going on with that? Is it also because it feels lived in, but does it feel lived in because of the balance between show and tell? Is it also because of the performers?
Obvious statement to be said up front. It's only 45 minutes. A lot of first episodes of the shows we have covered
Movie length
are 90 minutes. Not all, but most. Or they do the thing that The Expanse does, where Killjoys does not fall into the trap that many of its contemporaries did, which is this only feels like a small puzzle piece of a bigger story only. What do you feel, though? Because I know that out of the two of us, you have always had a much bigger problem with getting over the hump.
That's why I wanted to like unpack this a little bit more, because I in particular have mentioned a couple of things that make this feel of a higher caliber than the rest of the first episodes or pilots or pilot movies that we have covered for the podcast,
or ones that we've just watched of other shows that we
like. Like, I come up against this all of the time, it feels like. So it feels really weird to be so invested after watching one episode. Like, we got to the end and I was like, I'm annoyed that I have to wait a week to watch the next one. And I didn't even feel like that with Babylon 5 for a while. Like, so it's really surprised me how much I'm already invested in Killjoys as a show.
I'm ready to rate the episode on our system of rating things, which is Yum being bad and Yum Yum being
It's
good.
an easy Yum Yum to me.
Yum yum.
I, of course, give this a Yum Yum.
Yum yum.
I had a smile on my face, and it is rough. Like, it still has problems. It still is
It's not perfect.
showing its constraints of budget. The acting from the supporting cast is all over the place, but in a way that I personally found very charming. And I wonder how much that will linger with us as we go through the series, if that stuff will get better or if that stuff won't be as charming to me once we get to like episode 5.
I want to know what the next episode's called.
The next episode of Killjoys that we will talk about is called The Sugar Point Run. That's right, The Sugar Point Run. So
It's
what
be like the
will...
Kessel Run?
well, think about that. Maybe it could be. But we will watch that. We will talk about that. Thank you all so much for listening. We hope you've enjoyed what we've had to say about Killjoys. This is a show that I feel deserves more conversation. This was a show that existed as contemporary to a lot of other big science fiction shows going on. I really do feel like the 2010s was kind of like especially from the mid to the later part, was kind of a good period of time for sci-fi TV getting a rejuvenation, whether for good or bad. Like, we didn't love some of the new Star Trek shows, but like you had stuff like this, The Expanse. There's a few others we could go through. So there's a bunch of these, but I don't think Killjoys gets enough talk. So here we are to talk about it. Rachel, where can people find us elsewhere?
You can find us under yumyumpod or yumyumpodcast on your social media of choice, which are also linked in the description. Please rate and review us if your podcatcher of choice allows. If you want to email us, then you can send that to yumyumpod@gmail.com. And finally, if you want to see our reactions, you gotta join the Patreon. Well, you gotta join the Patreon to see them first, anyway.
Mm-hmm. We have so much stuff over on our Patreon. We release these episodes early. We have our full uncut reactions to watching these, Rachel seeing these again fresh. So there's a lot of moments where Rachel just kind of has a bit of a giggle or a little bit of a what was that, and we make sure to have good discussions while watching them too. We have a huge back catalog of things over there, as well as a community Discord if you wanted to talk to the fellow Yumlings out there. Thank you all so much for being here. We shall be back next time to talk about the Sugar Point Run, and I am hoping in my heart of hearts that the next episode will also feature some random Canadian character actor person that we recognize from The Expanse or Star Trek Discovery or one of these shows. Like, we had one in this episode. I hope that another one appears. I said to you that when we did The Expanse, the actor of Marco was in an episode of Killjoys, and they tried to sell you on the idea that he was a dork in that. And I can't wait to get to that episode. I can't remember when it is. I just remember it's like when I saw The Expanse, like, hey, it's that guy from Killjoys that was supposed to be a dork, but he looked like an Adonis.
Yeah, just call it off. And have my tits handed to me by my boss? I don't think so.